Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Brittany, the head instructor and co-founder of Mordhau Historical Combat in Mesa, Arizona. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience at SoCal Swordfight 2020 in Huntington Beach, California. Hey guys, welcome back to another week on my YouTube channel. I'm Brittany, and for this video I'm going to be talking about my experience at SoCal Swordfight this past weekend in Huntington Beach, California. So thank you so much for watching. This is probably one of the largest HEMA events on the West Coast, and it's hosted by South Coast Swords, who are based out of, I believe, Fullerton, California. So this year for SoCal Swordfight, I believe it was the biggest year they had on record. Not just for attendees, but for competitors, spectators even, and normally it's held at the Outbreak Soccer Center, which can hold several hundred people. I've been told that they're going to be looking for a new venue next year, which is probably a good thing, because with so many people, it was really cramped this year. There's these narrow sort of halls, and you're just squeaking by, which is really hard when you've got 3 or 4 people going in different directions trying to carry big bags of gear or swords, and then there's tables at the other end of the hall that have sharps on them. So people are grabbing sharps and looking at them, and somebody's sneaking by the back of them, oh, excuse me. So having a bigger venue next year will probably be a good thing, and I'm kind of glad this was the last year that it was at Outbreak. And not because I disliked the venue, I just think we've really outgrown it this year, which is kind of a good problem to have. So this year I had attended SoCal Swordfight to teach. I was teaching my Cutting 101 class. I was there as a competitor. I had competed in women's longsword, advanced longsword, advanced cutting, and single hand cutting. That's right. So I was there as a competitor, as an instructor. I was also one of the head directors for Sword and Buckler. I was pretty much running Saber as a director as well. And then I was there coaching my own students, who I will talk about in a minute because they did absolutely amazing. So my Cutting 101 class, I had way more people than I anticipated. It was a ton of fun. I knew it was going to be pretty well attended, but I didn't expect as many people, and unfortunately I was put in a section of the venue that I think was maybe a little bit cramped for the number of people I had for my class. Again, this isn't really a complaint or anything, or this isn't criticism of the organizers. There's no way we could have been able to tell how many people were going to be in my class in particular. But, I made do. We made it work. The other sort of odd thing that happened was I didn't have any tatami mats provided for my class. Sorry if you can hear my cat playing with a little jingly toy in the background. So there was no tatami provided for my class, and I had sort of expected to be doing a little bit of coached cutting, and that was not available, which is fine. I was still able to teach, I think, a really good class without it, but that would have been nice, so I didn't actually do any cutting in my actual class. So then there was some other really great instructors there too. Unfortunately, I didn't actually get to sit in on any classes this year. In fact, I don't think I ever have at any SoCal I've ever been to. I've been to 3 or 4 now, I think, and I've never actually been able to attend any classes unless they were my own or Kyle's. So Kyle is the other co-founder and head instructor of the club that I run in Arizona, Mordhau Historical Combat. So sometimes we'll assist each other with one another's classes, and so I actually did get to be in his class this weekend too. He did a wrenching, slicing, and grappling class, which is such an exciting topic. It's really, really cool, and he's exceptionally good at it, and I had a really good time assisting him with that. I did get some great feedback from my students. They ended up taking some classes as well. Christopher Stanson's class was really well received by my students. They really enjoyed it. SoCal Swordfight, the last couple years, has done a really great job starting to attract competitors and instructors from outside of the United States. Historically, they've always had American and Canadian instructors without, too much difference. But they've had some really great instructors. This year, I know, like I said, Christopher Stanson had come out, which was really, really exciting. I believe he's the #1 ranked sword and buckler fighter right now. So being able to learn from him is a really awesome thing. Last year, I believe there was Francesco Loda, and just lots of really great people that are being attracted to SoCal Swordfight right now. So I competed in 4 events: women's longsword, advanced longsword, which is open, it's not segregated, advanced cutting, and the advanced single hand cutting. So I'm gonna start with advanced longsword cutting, which I competed in, and that was probably the hardest cutting tournament I've ever done, but I don't feel too bad because apparently all the competitors said the same thing, that this was an exceptionally hard tournament, as opposed to any other previous SoCal year or even any other cutting tournament that HEMA has had so far. And you know what? I believe that. We had to cut through a tatami mat that had a dowel, like a wooden dowel, all the way through it, which was surprising for me to find out that it was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. And then of course there was cutting through a double roll, which is 2 tatami mats together. Again, I've done that before, but those 2 things on their own are not particularly difficult. The real struggle was having to do those 2 mats and cut them with like a semaphore setup. So I had to stand there, wait for a screen to indicate which mat I was going to cut, and then it would indicate which cut I was going to perform. And I had to get out of a marked box, like I had to walk out of a marked box, go up, cut the mat with the correct cut, and then walk back martially and safely in, I believe, 6 seconds. I could be wrong, it could have been 5, but I think it was 6 seconds. Which sounds like it's not that difficult, but man, when you go to do it, you're under pressure, you have somebody sitting in front of you with like little cards to like tell you what your score is, and you're under pressure, and then there's people watching. It is really hard. Moving and cutting at the same time is very different from being able to like plant yourself, get your headspace, and then throw your cut. Totally different when you have to be moving constantly between each mat and do different cuts and do it on command. So that was a really, really tough feat. The other feat, I believe, was I had to thrust through a mat, and on the other side of the mat there was like a blown up balloon that had to be pierced so it would pop, and then you had to withdraw the sword very cleanly from the mat and then perform a cut. And I really struggled with this actually, which was really disappointing because if you follow my Instagram account, you'll see that I've done this feat numerous times really cleanly, and I think I just got a little bit spooked by the idea of popping balloons and knowing that it was going to make a big bang sort of made me hesitant, so I really did struggle with that feat. But something to practice for next time. I'm like really excited to take home the feedback that I got from it and try again maybe next year. And then I also had to perform vertical cuts on a 45-degree angle mat. So normally you have a cutting stand and then a mat, tatami mat, that goes totally vertical, and most of the time our cuts are 45 degrees-ish. This one in particular, however, same cutting stand, but the mat was put onto the stand on an angle, and so then the cuts you deliver are straight down, like just vertical. So for those of you that are familiar with historical European martial arts, that would include the Scheitelhau or doing a Schielhau, things like that, and that was really hard. I managed to get my Schielhau successfully and the Scheitelhau successfully, but I failed the other possible cuts. I think there's a total of 5 that you could do on that mat, and I didn't get them. So unfortunately I didn't advance into the elimination rounds, but my good friend Philip Martin, he definitely did, and he won gold. Super happy for him. If you don't know who he is, go check him out. I will link his YouTube video or his YouTube channel in the description below. It is really worth watching all of his cuts. He's absolutely phenomenal. and him and I work together a lot on cutting, and so pretty much everything I know about cutting I can attribute to some of his guidance in one way or another. So the single hand cutting tournament was also limited to advanced competitors, I believe. That was also really hard, and I had to do the same balloon thrust feat. I had a little bit more success with that, I think, with the single hand sword. And then there was also having to do a draw cut on a rolled up piece of tatami that I believe had 15 layers of cloth wrapped over it, and you couldn't wind up and swing. You literally had to hold the sword over the mat and then draw it over, and you got points based on how many layers you cut through. I actually did really okay on that one. I cut through all 15 layers and then right into the tatami, so I did good there. But it was, like I said, an overall really hard tournament. But, you know, good days and bad days, I think I did okay. I didn't do the worst, I didn't do the best. I've got some things to work on. So I competed in open, advanced longsword, and then women's longsword as well. Women's is not divided into tiers, whereas the open longsword is divided into beginners, intermediate, and advanced. So I competed in the advanced. I felt so good about my fights. I think they were really excellent. I won some, I lost some, and it was a really great experience overall. Just the other guys in that tournament, I've known so many of them for so many years, so it felt less like a tournament and more just like really intense sparring, and it was so fun. And I remember being across the ring with like Josh Ferret and Miles Cupp and Doug Bostick, and we're laughing the whole time, we're smiling, you know, we're calling back shots like, no, that one wasn't good, I don't want the points, or, oh yeah, you hit me here. The sportsmanship was unbelievable. I had so much fun. I'm definitely going to be doing advanced again next year. I had the most amazing time just watching my students compete. I had 3 of them in the tournament this weekend, and I was so blown away. My student Arden, she has the most unbreakable spirit. I've never ever seen anybody with a better competitive headspace. You know, she's serious about her fights, but she doesn't let little things get to her. Some people get like really frustrated if they get a hit on them or they get a bad judging call or whatever, and they like psychologically they start to tilt, and then their fighting becomes garbage, and you know, they basically lose the match before they've even finished it. But she's awesome. I mean, I was so impressed. She just rolled with the punches. She had really great form. Oh, just really somebody to take a lot of pointers from psychologically for like any sort of tournament or competitive mindset. One of my other students, Yutran, he had competed in beginner's longsword and he won gold, which is amazing because last year he competed in the beginner's synthetic as well, and I don't think he made it out of his pool. He didn't get into a limbs, which is fine. That was his first tournament ever. A year later, he comes back, he's put in lots of time training, he's been working his butt off, and he won gold. I would be lying if I didn't say that I maybe happy cried. I'm sure there's like a really weird picture floating around of me like ugly crying when he wins his medal. And my other student, Tony, who's an absolute shark. Like, this guy's insane. He's one of the most hardworking students, and he's so talented and athletically gifted. It was no shock that he went into the open longsword and took gold as well. So I wasn't surprised, so I can't say too much other than like, yeah, he did exactly what I thought he was gonna do. So overall, SoCal Swordfight is a really great event. It's super well run, and it's done entirely by volunteers. These guys work their butts off all year round, and then they work their butts off even more on that weekend to make everything run smoothly and for everybody to have a fun time. So this really is a fantastic event, and I do encourage anybody looking to get into HEMA to actually consider attending. There are spectator passes, so you don't have to buy the full expensive registration and all this stuff. You can just show up. Super beginner friendly, tons of classes, lots of different levels of competition, and the overall atmosphere is very like laid back California, so it's really easy to be a new person and make friends right away. Like, even if you don't know anybody, chances are pretty good there's going to be people there that are willing to talk to you and talk about swords and stuff like that. There's also really great vendors that show up every year. I know Albion was there, so I always like when Albion shows up because Mike has like this table of swords that I'm always swooning over, and I always tell him like, if only I could take one of these home. But it's always nice to see what he's got. It's always lots of fun. There's a couple other vendors there as well. So it's really a great event because it's a one-stop shop. You got classes, tournaments, people to meet, vendors to buy from, and just overall a really great crowd, really great environment. So I really do hope that you consider going to SoCal Swordfight for 2021. I know I'll be there, so maybe I'll see you there.